So today for speech 1, we get to work on writing your persuasive speech rough draft. This is going to be a lot like writing your informative speech rough draft. The only real difference is tone. In this case, you're not trying to teach, you're trying to convince. You're trying to get us to agree with your argument. So let's show you how this is going to look on your handout where you're going to write it, and then let's give you some ideas for writing your rough draft. And of course, if you didn't have a chance to finish your research yesterday, I would suggest you do that first and then write the rough draft. Because as you know, you do need to reference your research at least once, just like how you did for the informative speech. All right, so here's the template you're going to use. Notice, very similar. So you're going to start with a hook, so a way to get your audience into what you're saying. Then give a background of the issue or the problem. So tell them what the issue is. Don't assume they know everything about it. And then finally, the thesis you wrote yesterday that says clearly what your argument is. Just like last time, we're going to use ABC 1, 2, 3 outlining. So here you'll put your first body point, so probably your first argument, and I'll show you some examples of how this will look. If you have a 1, you need to have a 2. So basically, make sure you have every space here filled out with information to support your argument. For the conclusion, first summarize what you've told them. So it could be, today I've shown you several reasons why medical marijuana should be legal in all of the states. Next, you get to decide what your second point is going to be for your conclusion. This can be a call to action. So that's telling them what they should go do. So if I was talking about medical marijuana, I could say, I really urge you to go out today and tell your representatives or your legislators that this is what you want. Or you can give them a so what point. So telling them why they should care straight up. So you should care about medical marijuana because others are suffering or whatever it is. Or you can do a full circle ending. This is where if in the hook you asked a question, you answer it. Or some folks in the beginning for a hook like to tell a little true story, and then at the end, they tell the end result of that true story. That works really well for persuasive. Let me show you some examples to help you get started on your draft. So here's a review of ABC 1, 2, 3. Here is a review as well from informative speech. How many pages do I need to get to the minimum 3 minutes? The short answer is about a page and a half of writing in single space Times New Roman, or do a word count, you need about 300 words, or 450 words, pardon me, if you want to get to a 3-minute speech. All right, so one way you can organize your speech is with a problem solution organization. So that's where in the intro you would state clearly what the problem is. Now, you're not required to have visuals for this one, but you can choose to include them if you think it'll be helpful to persuade. If you're doing problem solution, like I said, you give for the background part, you give a history of the problem and why you think the solution would work. And then your thesis is what should be done about the problem. Notice for the conclusion, it just backs up what you've said. So for the conclusion, you do a summary, and then a call to action works best for solution. Another way, or pardon me, this is just the same thing, more fleshed out. So here it shows you how to do it, what the parts are, and here's an example of me doing so. So I've given you an example on attitudes toward mental health. This doesn't mean you can't do this topic. You absolutely can. I just use it for my example. Another good way to start your speech is with anecdote. So that's a little story. It can either be your little story or someone else's. So for the intro for that one, you could explain why the issue is important to you, why it's personal, and then move on to give identity, give evidence that it isn't just your story that applies to this. This is a national thing or a worldwide thing. For the thesis, notice it always says, explain what needs to be done about the issue, what the solution is. And then for the conclusion, same kind of idea. You connect back to what you did for the intro. So you can read this at your leisure. This is an example, same topic, mental health attitudes, but this one is with an anecdote example. So this one I started with a little story about my dad and some of his PTSD experiences and what they did to treat him and how it didn't work. All right, this is the same kind of deal, just showing in depth what a body example point could look like. So same topic, I'm using the same topic for all of these. So this is, I'm detailing point A. So opioid abuse is connected to many other societal issues. Remember, in the body, you're going to want to reference your research at least once. So something like, according to the Mayo Clinic, or whatever your source is. So that's basically how you do the rough draft. Like I said, it's just like the introduction. The only difference is tone. You're just trying to convince us. So you folks get the rest of the time to flesh this out. And then tomorrow we'll continue learning about how to do the final draft. And that's what we'll do tomorrow. So you folks have the rest of the time to write your rough drafts. Go for it.